record, we're recording. Hello, everyone.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Welcome.
Well, what's on the agenda for now?
We
Spirits and possessions.
are talking about the spirit world. One
Spirit
of
world
my
it is.
favorite topics.
You live there.
Oh, this is going to be a huge in-depth conversation because we each have personal experiences with spirits, and
I don't think there's any one of us who doesn't have an experience. I mean, so to set the ground, have all of you had an out-of-body experience?
absolutely.
Yes. So just for our audience's sake, all four of us have had out-of-body experiences that give us strong evidence and confirmation of not only that the spirit world is there, but what it's kind of like. You know, it doesn't give us everything about it because we're still our auras are still locked in our body, tethered to our body, because we haven't died yet. But the spirit world is there, as far as we can tell. You know, it's very, very, very real. And as far as I can tell, there literally is spirits abundant in everything. I mean, there's really nothing that does not have some sort of intelligent principle to it. So that's my perspective. What about you, Rain?
Well, I've experienced several spirits, as a matter of fact. Do you have a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, well, in that case, let me talk to you about my personal testimony on spirits. I primarily experienced out-of-body experiences with deities, particularly what I call the grand entity. And this is experienced worldwide, mind you, in the form of sleep paralysis. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier. And not just the grand entity, but there are minor deities that have visited me on several occasions. I mean, to the point where they come and sniff my aura through my exhalation. And to the point where I feel like I'm floating, to the point where I feel like I can see my own body, and to the point where it's like a form of escapism. It's really bizarre. The last encounter that I had with a spiritual entity was the grand entity, what I call the grand entity. And he is a hooded individual. I can't see him because usually when I experience this, I mean, I take prazosin for it. My psychiatrist decided that it would be a good avenue for me to take, but it doesn't help. The spirits keep coming back. And I think it's because I've made myself particularly vulnerable towards these entities. And my experience with the grand entity is that he is in the form of an incubus. And I'm sure we're all familiar with what an incubus is, or what the incubi are. And,
Abraham, can you explain what an incubus is?
An incubus is a masculine spirit that pulls a little bit of life force off another person in an inappropriate and almost an assault, like a direct assault on the individual.
Okay.
Well, going off of that, Abraham, I would like to add that this incubus, or these incubi that are visiting me, are not malevolent.
Incubi are not always categorized as being hostile.
No, they're not hostile. They're not hostile. Yeah. They're just like they would say, they're not hostile. They're just very invasive.
Yeah, their nature is to erotically. They're psychic vampires of a sort. Some can be hostile, but most of them are just energy links to the sexual aspect of the person they are astrally connecting to.
And I'm really wondering, it's a male version of a succubi, or an energy vampire, like from a sexual standpoint.
It's a term for a behavior of certain spirits that are superior to humans, but still wish to appear to humans in their fantasies and romantically and erotically engage those humans on the astral plane. Yeah, it's really just that's just the blanket.
Sort of like satyrs for homo satirists.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, satyrs and incubi are kind of one and the same thing on the astral plane, except satyrs are more connected to nature than other incubi are.
Yeah, and okay, so very, very much like when we were talking about the jinn last week, they have their own unique characteristic, and they were born of a certain I guess, darkness and depthness, and they have no regard for your feelings. But honestly, my personal experience with them has been such that I have never felt so romanticized and desired and loved other than when these particular spirits visit me.
I have a positive experience of the jinn as well. Um, I would say, just for our audience's sake, that at least from my perspective, the spirit world is just another layer onto this one. There's nothing uncommon about electromagnetic beings or astral beings.
I think they have more intention than that, though. They don't just merely exist.
They are everywhere. Yeah, they're just they're life forms like us, except on a different spectrum of light.
And people around the world have experienced all of these same characteristics as far as their personal testimony with sleep paralysis, as it were. It's just, they call it by different names. Some people in Newfoundland, Canada call it the hag, or in British Columbia, they call it a certain different name, or in Mongolia, they call it by a different name. You know, and all of these different experiences, they have to have some, I mean, it's not a coincidence that these all keep happening on the same level to all these different people. In some people are more aware of it than others. Some people just chalk it up to a personal experience with a spirit or a ghost. But I chalk it up to, you know, I'm sensitive to all these different spirits, and I've opened a portal that I cannot close.
Yeah, once you open it, you can't kind of close it very easily.
That's what I always tell my students. You know, once you start talking, they're going to want to talk back.
It's a universal experience. Different times, different places, different civilizations, different like factors of how much money you have, different levels on the hierarchy. I mean, someone in every culture has experienced this again and again and again. Sleep paralysis comes. It's just human experience.
Yeah. It's a very common human experience, but not for everybody. Because
not for
yes, it is common, but it's not universal. But I agree with you; it is way more common than people realize. And I mean, the first sleep paralysis experience can be scary because it's the first
terrifying.
time you wake up and you can't move, and you're seeing things.
And you can't scream, you can't breathe, you can't.
No, it's quite scary. Yeah, at first. Yeah.
What is that amorphous black blob coming towards me and I can't move?
Yeah, it's a very bizarre experience. The first experience I had was when
that's why you have iron under your bed.
Is that a way to combat the experience? Is that a way?
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
A lot of root doctors will put like the big iron nails that you can find sometimes places.
What is the theory behind that?
Well, iron with the blood. It is
blood of what?
Blood of life.
Oh, okay.
Iron is a Hamitic mineral. It is very compatible with the blood, and the blood depends upon iron quite frequently too.
Well,
metabolism. Yeah.
All through mythology, iron's used to ward off all kinds of entities. You got the Fae, the Jinn.
Fae. And the Fae are also, in many legends, allergic to iron. So there are all kinds of mythologies and folklores around iron and other types of metals and certain types of spirits being averse to them.
So are you telling me that I can put some iron under my pillow and combat against these entities visiting me? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes.
I've never experienced that, but I wouldn't put it aside. I think that's an interesting theory.
I have a question for you, Doc. Would holding a small piece of iron on your persons keep you from astrally projecting?
It should. It should hold you down. Yeah.
Or something.
Put it in a small bag. If I was dealing with your issue, Rain, I would also put a prayer bag on the front and back of my bed.
Okay.
You know, just
so, like what would I fill it with? Like herbs and crystals, or I mean, what's your personal perspective when it comes to a talisman of sorts, or like a
Talismans, yeah.
a protector against like a mojo bag,
So
for instance?
before he answers, I have a question. What are your guys' opinions on what a talisman constitutes, and does it have to be physically a talisman to be a talisman? Because in my perspective, a talisman is an astral manifestation of an object or a focal point on the astral and on the spiritual level. And physical objects just help us anchor that energy into
I
them.
agree with you. I think
Yeah.
it's a matter of intention. You can fill it with whatever the hell you want to, as long as the intention's there. You can put some crystals in it. You can put some salt in it. You can put some lavender. You can put some herbs. Whatever your intention might be, that's what constitutes a physical manifestation of a talisman.
Well, and so
Or,
if you're a practiced conjurer and you've spent years,
Yeah,
visualizing,
I'm disagreeing with you on that one. You know, you can't just put a plastic spoon, a packet of salt, a sugar cube, and
yeah,
have the same
yeah,
effect.
yeah.
not like a plastic spoon, or I mean, it's a matter of intent. It's a matter of knowing your herbs, knowing your crystals, what's going to correlate with what, and putting it in a bag to combat against any unnecessary malevolence,
Incubi.
as it were.
It's almost our responsibility as people that specialize in that area to at least offer the knowledge
Indeed.
of what may be going on there and what we know about what's going on there based on our experience, because there are people who have no resources that don't know what that is, and they're experiencing bizarre things, and what are they going to interpret it as?
They're going to interpret it as possession, demonic possession.
When I was 5 years old, there was a shadow person that stood above my bed consistently. You know what I would have given to have had a solution to get that thing out of my bedroom?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think that some people can solve problems different ways that we can't when we're younger. Like our auras are different when we're younger. What an adult can do with a spirit and a certain type of person can do with a spirit is not the same. At different cycles in our life, we're vulnerable to different things.
Right.
You know,
we
You
grow.
catch a
give
certain
you
flow.
give the child a teddy bear. You fill it with seals and magical intent. You make it as a protection amulet. Nobody's afraid of a teddy bear. You know, they're gonna want it. The kid will want to hold it. Rain will want to hold it. I will want to hold it. You know, and just I think that that should be something. You don't even have to push your religion. You can put you
like
can
a
put
security
something.
blanket, or
Yeah.
like a means of pacification.
Yeah. Anchor points.
I'm gonna tell you. That's why I felt. I was watching a paranormal show, and they were talking about this. And he said, as a kid, it felt like abuse because no one would believe him. No one could see the things happening. So they would say that it wasn't happening and not do anything to rectify it. You know? And I thought to myself when I was growing up, yes, having these abilities is sort of like being abused.
Yeah, it is.
And
there's a way that things are done to you that you cannot explain, that you cannot conceive some of the things that take place, and people use their imagination, and you can only imagine some of the things that happen to these people who have no explanation of what's going on to them, other than it's a spirit or it's a ghost or it's a demon. And oftentimes
in that respect, that's why this is so important, is because there needs to be education so that people know what they're experiencing rather than just going to those places and having no clue what's happening to them.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to bring something up. I want to bring something up to you, Fade. If you go back on some of my spiritual spiritual TikTok,
yeah,
I have taken stickers and made talismans on the pages. So I've also not only done them in astral in real life, but I've also done them in cyber reality. You know,
You worked with talismanic images and created anchors on the astral plane
yes, and all
through virtual reality. You created informational anchors that actually affect people based on you basically filled information with intention that is active on the astral plane. That's a form of chaos magic. Chaos magicians, we're
I
actually studying that. Yeah,
yeah
it was
the
developed in the
ability
90s.
that when somebody sees something and then I just chain it to that. So each time
Yes.
it passes by somebody, it re-energizes.
So when I was growing up, I read a lot about that type of stuff because I was a chaos. The chaos magic was my first divergence from the church. So I had about a good 10 to 15 years there where I identified strongly as a chaos magician. Ultimately, when you represent information and fill it with intent, there's theories that you can set off chain reactions on the astral plane that are similar to what you can do on a computer, and that you can tag it to certain information on a computer. I don't know the details of how exactly it works. It has to do with information transfer. The science behind it is really hard to explain because I still wonder why I'm able to look at pictures on a screen and get real information about people from far, far away. And literally, I'm sitting here like, what's happening to me? And I know I can do it, and I have the instinct to know how to do it, but I don't know what the science is behind it. I just know I have that capacity.
And see, I don't think it has to come down to science. I think what you have is a genuine intuition. You have a
Yeah.
genuine a keen eye towards these things, and it's your sixth sense, as it were.
Yeah.
You have an amazing capability that nobody else has, and
It just
it just
perplexes me
shouldn't be
because
you shouldn't have to explain it. It just exists, just innately.
I I understand what you're saying. I think there's wisdom in that. I think that it is also important for me to eventually discover it, but I think it's going to be a matter of not forcing the explanation to happen right away.
Right.
However,
You get a feeling for it.
I'm able to look at on a freaking screen
Yeah.
the
You did
things
that.
behind
You did that.
Doc.
Some of the things that you told me about my past, about my present, and about my future, they were spot on to the point, down to the year.
And
And I
I
was
sit there and I'm
completely,
like, how am I even doing what I'm doing? It makes me
yeah,
wonder.
I was
Yeah.
flabbergasted. I was completely in awe of your capabilities.
And sometimes it overwhelms me because I think there's so much memory locked up in my subconscious mind that I just can't cope with the amount of information flooding into my consciousness. And
Yeah.
so I have to shut it down with, with medications or with meditation or with music or by just conking out and sleeping. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's overwhelming for me. And other people don't experience that. They experience the opposite problem. And I don't know which is worse. I don't.
It's not a matter of being worse. It just is.
Yeah,
You know what? You just accept, adapt, and move on, honey. You have a gift. You have
gotcha.
a gift beyond understanding, and just allow it to manifest. Just allow it to
Yeah.
manifest because nobody else has your gift. You have a keen eye for these things. You have a sixth sense. It's unexplainable, but you know what? Truth be told, it's a necessary component to what you experience. And yes, you know what? We should create a monetary value towards this because you have what it takes to read people, their past, their present, their future, everything else. It comes down, you say that it comes down to numbers, but I think it's a lot deeper than that, honestly.
The numbers are deeper. I think numbers are deeper than any number that we ever imagined. I think it's
Absolutely.
deeper than any form of numeration humans have conceived of. The types of calculations and connections the mind and the soul can make are just too deep for us to understand in modern mathematical terms. But the thing is that being able to do those things does not necessarily it's kind of funny because when I'm reading people, they expect me to be omniscient, and I'm like, no, I have many eyes and I have a mind that sees things that other people don't see. It doesn't mean I know everything. And that's
Right.
one of the first things that you want to look for in a reader. I will tell my audience right now, if somebody that's a good reader, they're going to tell you, okay, this is when I'm wrong and this is when I'm right. Sometimes I get it wrong. Here's why I'm not always right, but I am right about this. You know, they're able to explain to a degree and articulate to a degree to their client that they are not perfect human beings and they can still be good at what they do.
Abraham, what was your experience with Fade's interpretation of your life? What do you have to say?
I was blown away.
Now's our chance to promote Fade for his gifts, because he has a gift that we do, all three of us do not have.
He said that I'd meet somebody or have met somebody, and I'd literally met someone 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he not? Is he
He
not
said
the
they're a
most
little
accurate?
strange, and they are a little strange, but they're perfect for me.
Yeah.
It's almost
like
borderline
spot on for that.
eerie, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you said you're going to be traveling with me in about 3 years. You'll be traveling, and then so I'm talking to this guy that I've been talking to. He's like, "How would you feel about going to Sweden?"
Yeah, I know.
You have to learn how to speak Swedish.
And that was after
Yeah.
they said that.
That's only me.
Yeah.
It's borderline eerie. I think
Yeah.
it's awesome.
You're tired. It's 3:30 in the morning here.
Okay.
2:30
Sounds
here.
good. Let's
All right, everyone. But
reconvene.
reading room it is. We'll open one up. We'll
Sounds
figure
good.
that out. All right. I love
All
all
right.
of you.
Love you
Bye,
too.
guys.
You all.
Love
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Namaste.
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 Namaste.